And welcome back to the workshop. In today's episode, we're going to be building a straight razor. These are very fun, very technical knife. You may remember a while back, Mastersmith Steve Schwarzer and I collaborated and built a very fun straight razor out of some wild Damascus, and he carved a cool goblin face on the back, and it looked cool. It functioned very well, but I kind of want to pursue some of the more technical, high-performance aspects of doing a straight razor. And so today we're going to be taking a piece of Crew Forge V high carbon steel and turning it into a beautifully functioning straight razor. Today's episode is sponsored by Factor. Factor is a meal subscription service that delivers fresh, never frozen, chef-cooked meals straight to your door. That is pretty dang cool. They have a super wide variety of options for you guys with keto, calorie smart, vegan, vegetarian, chef's choice, all that good stuff. You can really tailor it to what you want to eat, and they make it really easy, save you a lot of time on having to go to the store and having to clean up and whatnot. You can have great healthy meals, hassle-free in your own home. Isaiah and I have really been enjoying them recently. While we're working in the shop, it's easy to just zip up to the house, heat up a couple of meals, watch an episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, because somehow Isaiah's never seen that show, even though he's seen every other movie in all of existence. And then come back down to the shop with good fuel to keep on working for the rest of the day. If you guys find yourself ordering a lot of takeout, this is an awesome alternative. Not only is it cheaper, but it's also a lot faster than getting takeout. So if you guys are interested in checking out Factor and getting some easy, ready to go, delicious meals, go to factor75.com/WillStelter60 for 60% off your first Factor box. Thank you to Factor for sponsoring today's episode. With that, let's jump back on in to a little bit of razoring. So these are two different antique razors that I just found at antique shops. I really like both of these examples. This one has a faux ivory bamboo shaped handle. It's carved to look like bamboo, which I think is very cool. And this one also has just that faux ivory material. This one was made in Germany. This one was made, I think, in England. And they have a couple different aspects on each of them that I really like and things that I want to incorporate into the new design that I'm doing. In the past, the razor designs that I've done were completely out of my own head. That doesn't quite work so well because of how specific razors need to be designed. Now, both of these razors are very similar dimensionally. They both have about a 2 3/4 inch long cutting edge. The steel part is a little bit less than 6 inches, and the handle is about 5.5 inches on the both of them. Now, thickness-wise, they're also very similar. This one is 150 thousandths of an inch. This one is 160 thousandths of an inch. And the important thing about a razor and what's going to make it cut and shave well, there's a few things, but one of the really big things is the width to thickness ratio. And the reason why that matters is because you lay the spine of the knife, this kind of thick area right in here, flat on the stone, and that's your sharpening angle for the edge itself. And so if your spine is too thick and your blade isn't so wide, you're going to have a really obtuse angle. Or if it's really thin and really wide, you're going to have a very acute angle. And we want to find that sweet spot where it's going to hold up and not, break, but also not so thick that it is not going to be able to cut hair well. That's the problem that I made on my last one. I made the blade way too thick for how wide the blade was. And so it did not have acute enough of an angle to be able to cut well. So we're going to shoot for roughly the same dimensions, both on the width and on the thickness. I'm going to go a little bit wider this way because presumably this razor has been worn down as it's been used. That's just kind of how it goes. So first things first, let's get our design transferred onto the piece of steel. right, I'm gonna throw it in the oven now. I'm gonna bring it up to 1500 degrees and let it sit for a few minutes and then quench it in Parks 50 quenching oil. I'm heat treating it full thickness because I still have a lot of material to move off of the sides, and surface grinding it down might be a little bit challenging with it being super thin with bevels on there. And I don't really mind bevel grinding at full thickness anyway, so I'll just leave that until afterwards. It'll be very good. You saying we should quench it? You're right. Thank you, Marty. Yes. Alrighty, we're at 1500 degrees. Looking hot. Look at that. No dings, no cracks probably. Someone get me a bar of 01 so I can clean this scale off. That was a subtle and sly reference to when Niels cracked his own knife using a bar of 01 right after. That's old. 400 grit belt.
I haven't done that before. That 400 grit looks awesome. So smooth. It's like butter. Isaiah, feel this on your face.
We're going to start off grinding on the 1.5 inch wheel with a 60 grit belt. You know what? I might throw... Oh, yes! I never get to use this. Throw this in the hand vise. So now that we've got our bevels roughed in there, they're looking good. They're at 400 grit. The little convex part of the edge is from the disc sander, and the hollow grinds that are the main portion of it off of that 1.5 inch contact wheel. Now there are a couple facets that I need to carve onto the blade itself. A commonality between the two is that there is an area that is relieved right here, presumably so that it doesn't hit the front of the handle scale there, and then the back of the tang needs to be tapered as well so that it's able to pass through worry-free, and then just some kind of rounding and chamfering along the rest of it as well. The other thing that I want to do is I want to round out this area a little bit more. I don't love how it looks, but that is something that is on both of these razors, and presumably it's that you don't dig it into your face when you're trying to use it. So this hand sanding process is going to go a little bit slow because this steel is Crewforge V, and Crewforge V is very, very wear resistant and has an excellent reputation for being terrible to hand sand. blade finished up, it's time to move on to the handle. Now I'm tracing out my design here. The thing about straight razors is that you kind of have to stick to a certain theme. They all have a very thin, very long handle. Obviously you want it to cover up the blade. And so I couldn't make a traditional handle like I'd normally do on like a chef's knife or something like that. It wants to be thin, slender, and long. I was still able to kind of put in my own style to it with some nice curves and sweeping lines, similar to what I do on a lot of my other pieces. Now, the handle material that I'm going to be using is this vintage emerald green paper micarta. It is one of my absolute favorite handle materials, not because I use it a lot, but because I think that it's really cool. In fact, I've only used it on one knife so far, but as far as synthetic materials go, this is, I think, one of the coolest. It has a nice, natural green kind of color. It's very bright, very vibrant. It has very cool black striations running through it from the paper. This stuff is 3/8 of an inch thick, and I think I'm going to try and make this thing integral. Now that means that rather than cutting 2 scale slabs off of it, I'm going to try and use one solid piece and cut a slot down the middle. I've got a piece of hardware to use for the pivot in it. It's a stainless steel barrel with some titanium screws. And so the plan is to make this handle right here. You see we have a bit of a palm swell. That doesn't actually serve any real function on a straight razor other than aesthetics. A little hook on the back there, that's again mostly aesthetic. It will, however, help a little bit with making sure that that blade doesn't pop through the handle. The way that a straight razor stops from going all the way through is that as it starts to flare out at the top of that hollow grind, it catches and the 2 scales and it kind of pinches it and stops it from going through, and then it can of course fold all the way around so you can hold it like that. So I've got my profile traced out here roughly. Now I can cut this out with scissors and transfer it onto my green emerald paper. So we're just barely need to remove a little bit more material so that that blade can pass through and sit where it's supposed to go, but quite promising. yeah. That'll do it. Okay. This thing's cool. I can't tell you guys how many times I've gone to etch my maker's mark into a blade and done this for like 2 or 3 minutes. I'm like, man, that really is not working very good. And then I realized that I haven't grounded it, and so I'm not actually doing anything. Last step is to throw a bit of an edge on there. And by a bit of an edge, I mean the most crazy, insanely sharp edge that has ever come out of this shop. And by shop, I mean we need to go up to the house to use my water stones. Amazing. It actually does cut hair quite well. I'm thrilled with how this came out. It looks lovely. This emerald green vintage paper micarta from my boy Hunter, Hawk's Nest Customs, is insane. It looks so good. The Crewforge V was a worthy adversary. It is so wear resistant. It is so hard to hand sand and grind and sharpen. Off camera, you guys didn't really see. I spent overall about 10 hours on stones trying to sharpen this thing up. Now, it wasn't terribly exciting. I was just sitting there going like this for a really long time. And then I ended up thinning out my edge a little bit more. So now what we have here is a spine of about 150 thousandths of an inch, and then it tapers down with that 1.5 inch hollow grind to about 10 thou, and then it tapers down from 10 thou to nothing at the edge. Now, it turns out my edge is just a little bit thick. It needs to have some flexibility to it in order to cut hair well. It's really interesting that the razor would go through paper like it was nothing, but then I'd go to shave hair and it just didn't do so hot. I wasn't quite sure what the reason was, but after fiddling around with thinning out that edge a little more, that was definitely it. So the stoke level is high on the razor. I'm thrilled with how it cuts hair now. It cuts like a razor should cut hair, as far as I know. This is for my friend Kyle, who's a barber here in Montana, Man of the Woods barber shop, and so he's gonna be using it, and so I'm sure he'll be able to let me know how it is, any improvements I can make, stuff like that. But now that I've got one under my belt that I'm really happy with the performance of it, as well as the aesthetics, I think this will be a good one to base future razors off of. I feel like it's pretty distinctively in my style, but also pays homage to a lot of the classic razor stylings. So now that it's all sharpened up, I started off at 1,000 grit, and then I moved my way up to 10,000 grit before stropping, and now it is hair popping sharp. So I'm excited to start building some more straight razors. They are such a technically complex thing to build that they're a great challenge. I like that they are a usable, functional piece. You can physically feel the technical skill that goes into making them. So that's a great challenge for me. I had a great time getting to build it. So thank you guys so much for following along with this build. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a blast. For part of the time during making it, sometime there in the 10 hours of sharpening, I got a little bit discouraged. But now that it's done, I'm very happy. I'm a happy camper. It's a good razor right there. But I hope you guys enjoyed following along and watching it. Thank you very much to today's sponsor, which is Factor. And thank you to the patrons for patronizing me. Stay tuned for some more videos coming out soon. More fun knife stuff. I've got my buddy Rick Hall coming in from Reno, Nevada. He and I passed our journeyman test together this year. We've got some fun, big knife stuff planned. So stay tuned for that. Making big old chopping knives, which are about as much fun as they sound. And with that, I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.